So today, here at Life of an Angry Bee in our new home studio, we have started a series. It's a 5-week series in Healing Out Loud. And we have Rebel Coaching with us today, having a conversation with Rebecca Lynn. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's really been a wonderful journey to finally start this healing process with you. You've been presented to me several times in several different forms, and thank you for going on your journey so that you can help me through mine.
I'm just really excited for this conversation. It's so important to have conversations like this, and the idea of healing out loud is just, I think, very relevant for us, but more than just us, right? And I know that's why you're doing this.
Right.
Because other people need to hear this conversation.
Exactly. And strong, independent women, alpha females, we tend to heal in private. We tend to heal in the dark. We like to lick our wounds in the dark because we have a pack to take care of. And it becomes very difficult to reach out for help, for support, even within our own pack. And I just wanted to be on this platform opening that conversation as to how you reach out for support when you need it.
Yeah, I think that is something that I really struggled with too. You know, as we've talked about this episode and having this conversation, I've thought a lot about that idea of healing out loud.
Yeah.
And I didn't for a really long time. I think the betrayal that I experienced happened in 2013 and 2014. It was kind of a year-long ongoing little things and then really big things, but just this process of small betrayals and ultimately this big betrayal.
Yeah.
And then after that I hid.
Right.
And we've kind of talked about that a little bit outside of this conversation, but I hid because that was just the easier thing to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't want everyone to see me falling apart.
Right.
I wish I would have let them though. I feel like healing would have maybe happened faster had I not tried to heal in private.
I hid in the beginning. A year ago was the biggest betrayal of my life, and I did not see it coming. I hid in the beginning. And while I was on the floor bleeding out, I was then forced to see my children collapse. And that's what brought me out of hiding. I attempted to every avenue to fix the situation for them and put myself on the back burner. My daughter specifically went through quite a bit in the beginning of this. And she's a major in school. She has a major of therapy and psychology, and she's really flourishing now, but it was really difficult for her. And I had to stand up. I was forced to stand up so that she could see what it looked like. My son immediately went into a protective mode and was unsure how to even begin. And he was really very angry about it. And I just didn't want him to take my emotion on. And therefore, we started a healing journey, 10 months ago. He in her and hers mind separately. And now we're becoming such a unit together, healing together, that I want to have that authentic, genuine conversations with each other so that we can, validate each other, also open doors to conversations that specifically are really difficult for strong, independent women, but also for young men. I started to realize in the last few months that I'm raising someone's husband. Absolutely. I'm raising someone's father. My dad still kisses me square on the lips. He has no problem showing his emotion. And I don't want my son to be emotionally unavailable or an emotionally crippled man for his wife and for his children. So therefore, it's my job as a solo parent to show him that.
Right.
So I do soft feminine things, but also being as I am a solo parent, I have to do those hard things and show him what integrity and honor and loyalty look like. So this healing journey is not just for myself. It's opening up a vulnerable place that I'm not used to being at. exposing different parts of myself that I am a little uncomfortable and nervous about. But it is also reaching out, letting other strong women, independent women who are accustomed to healing silently, suffering, internalizing, that it's possible to heal out loud. And I think it's healthy. Talk therapy has been, wonderful for me, but also for my daughter to learn and to stand up and say, no more. This doesn't, it's not necessary for me to internalize. But for my son is so proud of me. We had a lot of conversations before today, specifically last night and yesterday. He climbed into my bed, and I always know when he wants to talk about something because he climbs into my bed. Mm-hmm. And he climbed into my bed, and he told me how proud he was of me, and that this was a good thing, Mom. And he rallies behind me, specifically behind his sister mostly. But yesterday he just really expressed how that this was okay, this was good, and that he was proud. And so I know that I'm on the right track.
I was just going to say, that's exactly how you know you're on the right track. Mm-hmm. Because kids sense things, kids know things. Kids are the first ones usually to say the really honest thing.
Yeah.
And they're not usually going to lie to us.
Right.
Not us, as their moms, typically, about things as big as this kind of healing journey. Yeah. They're going to tell us if we're doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's absolutely how you know that you're on the right track. When your 13-year-old is saying, I'm proud of you, Mom.
Right. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I mean, thinking back months ago, my son said to me, Mom, you have to let it go. You have to let this go, because I was trying to fix everything for everyone. Fix it for who we're going to call so-and-so. I was trying to fix it there. I was trying to fix it for my son. I was trying to fix it for my daughter and my mother and my sister and this family that had been absolutely decimated. I was trying to fix it for everyone. I was trying to fix it for my friends, for our community who had known, something different. I was trying to stay silent and stay positive and, put a face on that everyone could, know that if Kim's falling apart, everybody's falling apart. And that's the role I have. So I was trying to make it better for everyone else, and then coming home and just absolutely falling apart because I could not make sense of such a betrayal. I couldn't make sense of it. And I'm still struggling. As you know, I mean, you and I are about to embark on a 5-week journey here. And it is, I don't know how to bridge the gap here. I can physically 13.5 pounds down, feel strong, very conscious of what I'm consuming, whether it's food, emotions, social media, whatever it is. I am very conscious of what's around me, what I consume, and what energies are near me or my children. But I'm having a difficult time bridging the gap of how could you do this? How could someone else absolutely decimate a partner of over 20 years, but also children? Also allow that shrapnel to hit other people. How do you have that in you? I'm having a difficult time understanding the how you can do that, how you can continue. And it's not really, I would tell my sister, I would tell my friend Robert, I would tell anyone who I was having a conversation with, I would give them the right advice. I would tell them, because this is their personality disorder. Right. This is their struggle. This has no reflection of who you are as a person. This does not validate, invalidate, belittle, demean you as a person, because you're spectacular. I think I've told my sister 1,000 times in her life how spectacular she is. Mm-hmm. But for yourself, it's difficult to stand in that and say and believe those things about yourself or about the situation. And so that's really what I would like to bridge, so that I can also give that as an example to my children. We must heal through this. We will not live in this matrix for the rest of our lives. We will heal and we will get to a place where, I think you and I had a conversation about this, about forgiving and letting go with love.
Releasing into love and light. Yes.
I'm not quite ready to release into love and light.
Journey. Yeah. I think it's interesting to have that thought of how could this happen? How could someone just not care? And I think that shows how different we are from someone who could do something like that, because it's incomprehensible to us.
It really is.
To behave this way.
Yeah.
There's no integrity in that. There's no loyalty in that. There's no respect in that.
Right.
There are a lot of values that we hold very dear that were not part of that person's behavior or the aftermath, the after effects of it all.
Yeah.
I think that's like the very first thing that came to my mind as you were saying that, because it's incomprehensible to us.
Right.
That is what sets us apart.
Right.
And I think going through this process of healing out loud and talking about it may bring some of those other things, that this is not a reflection of who you are. This is not anything about you. In fact, this is a mirror back on them, right?
Yeah.
Healing out loud, when we have those conversations, we start to hear the words come out of our mouth, and then we can believe them. But when they're only in our head, when they're only floating around in our head, we can't really believe them yet.
Yeah.
But we will believe the words that come out of our mouth.
Right.
So we have to speak it out loud.
Yeah.
We have to do this out loud.
Over and over. And just because we have a certain level of morals or integrity or character does not mean that the other person or other people that you're in relationships with do.
Right.
And
absolutely.
There's really not anything that you can't convince someone of integrity. They either obtain it and hold on to that, and that's a priority in their life, or they do not.
Yep.
You can't force that. And that's the struggle that I've been having without any resolution. So that's the journey that I'm going on with you for the next, 5 weeks to start. And I would, I'm interested in your process. I'm interested in the book you're writing and that process, because that sounds wonderful and it sounds very easy. I say to people, I could write 5 books about my life. I mean, I've shared a little bit of my backstory here in the last 2 conversations I've had in my episode 1 and episode 2. But, I say that with ease. It can't be an easy process though.
Yeah, it is. I thought it was easy also. And then I started doing it, and it turns out it is a lot more involved. And it's, the writing is one thing. It is the process of actually creating a book that's an entirely other, separate thing. So you have these 2 things that work together, and then you have a book at the end. So I'm hoping that at the end of this, I have a book at the end, because I'd really love to hold that in my hand and say, I did this.
Accomplishment.
Yes. I'm learning a lot about story. We have these stories.
Right.
And in writing this book, and when you write your book, it is the process of telling our story. And it's being able to tell a story in a way that is engaging to other people.
Yeah.
So our story is engaging to us because it's ours, because we know it and we know all the details. And I think it's figuring out which details belong in the story we tell outwardly, and which ones we need to keep to ourselves, because some of our story is not for anybody else.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes there are parts of our story that we think are really important, but wouldn't really be that engaging to someone listening. And so it is figuring out what would they actually find engaging. And there's this process of storytelling where you start with the hero in a hole, basically.
Oh,
so you have the protagonist, this person who wants something. And in order to make it interesting, they have to be in a hole of some kind. Like they are missing something. They, we are talking about our stories where we kind of started in a hole.
Yeah.
We were betrayed seriously. And so how are we going to get out of that hole?
Right.
And so our books will be interesting because our stories start with us in this hole, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then in a story, you want the story almost to get worse.
Yeah.
For it to be engaging.
Goodness.
Now, I don't want my story to get worse.
Oh, I don't know that it can.
But as I think that's been the interesting thing about it, is that I've had to actually really remember.
Yeah.
And there are parts of healing where you just kind of want to forget.
Oh my goodness. Ruminating. The rumination will get you.
Yep.
The rumination will absolutely get you.
And then as I've remembered,
Yes.
there's almost this part that happens where I have to convince myself that it actually happened the way that I remember it.
Oh, wow.
And I think that is a little bit of the effect of being a victim of an abusive situation, because we don't want to believe that it could have been this bad.
Oh my
right?
goodness. I honestly, I'm going through a lot of that right now. My sister's here visiting, and my sister lived with me for a good part of 8 years, also witnessing this abuse and this neglect and a lot of it. I mean, and even at the time she would just look at me like, "What are you doing?" And what I was doing was I was trying to hold things together.
Right.
And now that, I'm, a year long into this, I'm having conversations with her, and she will look at me and go, that's not how it happened. Don't you remember this? And it blows my mind sometimes. I just think, oh my gosh, wow, I've made this okay.
Right.
It did happen that way. These details I've left out to make it okay for myself, to protect myself from it.
Yep.
And it indeed did not happen that way. It happened this way. And yet I forget the small details that absolutely make this story the truth.
Right.
And I've left those out to protect myself. And it's been really interesting having conversations with her about this. I had avoided photo albums. I had avoided those memories that pop up on your phone. They'll get you.
Oh, yeah.
Those Facebook stories, they're like, hey, we made you a little collage. Oh, you trip up with one of those once or twice, and you're like, yeah, any memory that is over 12 months has to instantly be discarded. There's absolutely no way I can tolerate any of that at this point. Yeah. But also the different things are triggering me now that I am getting more clarity and acceptance of the reality. And I'm not ruminating as much anymore, but that will get you. I was in San Diego recently, and it was a fine weekend. Great, wonderful. We had a great time, kids and I. And I was at an outlet mall on the way home. And I was walking through the outlet mall, taking my son and his friend to the sneaker store, which is where we spend a lot of time now. But we were walking by a Lucky Brand store. All of a sudden, my heart started racing. I started sweating, and I was out of breath because I used to save and pull money together so that I could buy so-and-so Lucky jeans when I walked around with Walmart jeans. Just the sign on the building threw me into a complete trigger. And it took me hours of the car ride home, of the 5-hour car ride home, to get back to a level place. It was the sacrifices. Now that seems like a very small sacrifice, but I had sacrificed so much. I was willing to take so little and give so much. Could we afford Lucky jeans at the time? No, we couldn't. But I certainly made sure that the perception and other people had what they needed. And I just made do for myself. I had made an interesting agreement that I look back now and I'm so disappointed in myself, which is what I'm hoping to really work through with you. I had made a rule or an agreement with them that I just need you to tell me that you love me on Thursdays, because that can get me through the weekend, and then I have something to look forward to during the week. And I remember saying it over and over. I just need you to tell me that you love me on Thursday, because I was never told I love you. I was never told I'm proud of you. It was just expectation after expectation after expectation. Here's the bar, reach it. When I reached it, the bar went higher. Yeah. Here's the bar, reach it. And when I reached it, the bar went higher. And I was never told I love you. So I just came out with this very strange rule that you have to tell me. So Thursday would come and I would look and I would wait and I would say, hey, so it's Thursday, prompting the I love you. It was so degrading. It was so demeaning, and I did it to myself. And I started, once this trigger came from this Lucky Brand store, a lot of other triggers started coming.
Yeah.
A lot of other things that I started remembering. Remember when I started to have a little bit of success and I had purchased myself my first pair of mother jeans, and they were expensive. To me, they were expensive. I'm finding a pair of Old Navy jeans, $34.95. And I bought myself this pair of mother jeans, and I just thought I was the hottest tamale around. I really did just thought, I am it right now. And I pranced my mother jeans into the office and was immediately ridiculed. Wow. And it was noticed. Those jeans are $600. Now, they weren't $600, but the perception and then the ridicule came. And I have heard that comment of, oh, you're wearing expensive jeans. Now, I built a company and a brand from nothing. I absolutely deserved to splurge on myself. 100%. It's interesting that the first thing that I splurged on myself with was a pair of expensive jeans. And I didn't even notice it at the time. I didn't know it at the time until recently when I came back from San Diego.
Yeah, and then you made that connection.
I did.
With the previous event. I think one of the things that I work with my clients on specifically is the triggers and our nervous system and understanding our nervous system, because our bodies are made to protect us. Our brains will do whatever they have to protect us.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't make sense, like we were talking about, remembering things differently than they actually happened. Our brain did that because your brain did that, my brain did that. Our brains do that to keep us safe. They do that because we need to believe we're safe.
Right.
First of all, to stay in a situation that we're not sure of, that's not making sense. Things look differently than they should look. And so our brains will do that to us. And then when we start to go through this process of healing, we get through a little bit of healing, we're capable of dealing with more.
Right.
And so new things will pop up.
New things pop up.
And I think that's the layer of the onion that sometimes I've heard it called that a million times. There's a layer, layers of onion. Healing is like an onion. You get through one layer and then there's another. And I absolutely have experienced that.
Yeah.
Where I get through one thing and I think, oh, I made it. I am done with this.
Yes.
I'm good. I'm happy. Everybody's good. And then I'll see something that just brings me right back there. And it is like it is happening in that moment.
I know.
And if I can remember these tools to like re-regulate my nervous system, I can tell myself in that moment, this is not actually happening.
Where's that toolbox?
That toolbox is some of the tools that I have.
Yes.
And some of these, it's different for everyone, right? So there's like tapping. There is, telling yourself 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can touch, and walking yourself through that to bring yourself back into the present moment. I think a lot of us, I know for me, I really, when I'm dysregulated in that way, I will dissociate from the moment. Okay. And I think that doom scrolling on social media is definitely a byproduct of that dissociation.
Man, I like to walk in the fire. I do. I like to face it because I don't want anything sneaking up on me. I'm like, okay, here it is. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I will grip it and rip it. I will walk through that fire, face it.
I had to actually take these social media apps off my phone because I was so tired of doing that.
Yeah.
Because it would happen without me noticing it.
Okay.
And then I started to notice and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I want to face it.
Yeah.
I want to be present in this moment.
Okay.
I am tired of checking out for 10 minutes so that I don't have to deal with the feeling I'm having right now. And instead saying, I'm feeling something right now. What is this that I'm feeling? It's okay that I'm feeling it. That thing that's caused me to feel this isn't happening right now. I am safe. That's a big one, actually. Reminding myself, I am safe.
Okay.
I'm in my home. I've created the safe space for myself.
Right.
I'm safe right here.
Yeah.
And any emotion that we feel, the chemical reaction in our body takes about 90 seconds for it to run its way through our body.
Yeah.
So if we can sit there for 90 seconds and take some deep breaths.
I heard Seth Rogen say the same thing.
Yep.
He said the exact same thing.
Yeah. And then we can kind of deal logically.
Okay.
We can get it back up into
Right.
our prefrontal cortex. We can start thinking with our more wizard brain. It's like this evolved part of our brain that's
Right.
not just trying to escape danger. We can get into that place that we
You
can
had
start
given
to be
me
there
an idea about breath therapy, and I don't recall what you had called it, but it was like a square, like it was
box breathing.
Box breathing.
Yes.
And so I've been trying to use that more. I maybe should have developed more deflection and dissociating as a tool, but I am so used to running into the fire for crisis, whether it's in my family or friends or business. My job is to run into the fire and find the solution. Like if you're bleeding out, I'm your gal.
Yeah.
I will whip my bra off and make a tourniquet.
Well, we need you.
Like I gotcha.
We need you.
But I don't have that in my life. I am the oldest sister of many sisters, but my next sister below me, April, is the one that when I am there, she's the first one. I call, hey, listen, I'm going down and I'm going down fast, because when I go down fast. I can maintain for everyone else, and I can hold that platform, and I can be there and hold the line, and I got you. And in the trauma, in the chaos, I'm your gal. I have a clear mind in that moment. But then when I'm going, I tell her, run fast, because it's here now. And it's interesting too, because I was thinking about my success the other day, going through a buyout in my company. And I was thinking about, this brand that I've built, and my sister's the one who had told me, I mean, look at what you've done. And right now I'm having this conversation with you, looking at one of the biggest awards I've ever gotten in my life, which is placed behind you. And it was given to me by my Hispanic community. And that day was a very special day for me. I have people around me that remind me of my successes, and almost in a sense, my success has been a trauma response. It's been a trauma response to someone that kept lifting the bar.
Right.
Be this, be this, be this. I remember I had gotten an award from the mayor. The mayor is also a strong, independent alpha woman who is leading the charge. She gave me the very first female leadership award in Santa Maria. And that day I was so proud of myself. I brought my daughter and my sister, and a couple of my friends came to the chamber, and we stood there with, Mike Cordero and the whole city council was there, and they gave me this award. And my partner didn't show up. He didn't show up. Didn't even show up to see it. Didn't show up for it at all. And I was crushed.
Sure.
I was crushed. It was a moment of my success that I was proud of. And
absolutely,
by not showing up, it was a form of belittling me.
For sure.
Because this accomplishment outshined someone else.
Yeah.
And they couldn't tolerate it and had to put me right back in my place. And immediately, the next day, I was put right back in my place. So, the success that I have, which I'm very grateful for, and I've expressed this a few times, that I really don't know what I've done to have this great life, but I'm grateful for it. And the trauma response that I've had is success.
Yeah.
So I'm the first one to run to the fire, to solve the problem, to, figure out what the equation is and solve it. Yeah. What needs to be accomplished? Well, you need financial security. Great. I've built an empire. You need, this is what we need to be successful. No problem. I'm going to build that and do that. And at this point, I turn around and look at all these accomplishments. And even if it's just financial independence, even if it's just security for my children and their schooling in the future, I can check all the boxes off.
Yeah.
But it was a trauma response that led me down that path.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty normal for women, these alpha females, like we're talking about, strong, independent women, because we don't want to show that we've been hurt.
Right.
We didn't want to get, like, we did everything to protect ourselves in the first place.
Absolutely.
By continuing to meet the bar.
Yes.
We're trying to already not get hurt. And then we get hurt. Now we're not going to show anybody that we got hurt. And in fact, we're going to show you that we are better off.
I'm fine.
And so we're going to do even more.
Yeah.
And I think I had a very similar response in my situation. No one that I worked with at the time, I was working in a corporate job here locally, no one knew. Yeah. Anything was going on. Yeah. Except for that I lost a ton of weight. And so I looked very, very sick. And one person said, something is going on with you. And he was somebody I didn't even really work closely with. He just paid attention. Yeah. And so I shared a little bit with him, but that was it. I didn't share anything with anybody, but I took that fuel and I ended up working in our global management team and traveling the world and doing all these things. And it was wonderful. And I made all these connections and built relationships across the globe. And it wasn't enough to heal the hurt that was inside. That's and at some point it just had to come out. So there was all this, we were surviving. And I remember very distinctly, it was March of 2020. So it was like right before the whole world fell apart. Yeah. I had this conversation with a woman locally. I don't know if we ran into each other, but I remember saying to her, I finally feel like my family is thriving. I feel like we have made this transition where we're not just getting through the day anymore. Right. We are now working toward thriving actually. Yeah. And healing. And I didn't know this at the time, but it was going to be probably, we're just this year, I would say we're actually getting to this place where we are healing the deep emotional stuff. Yeah. Where we've built safety. We've really built, and I think one of the things that's part of the process I do is helping people figure out how to build a brave space for themselves and their family. Yeah. So that real healing can happen because we can deal with maybe the more surface stuff or the triggers and our nervous systems. Those are all really important. And then once we get beyond that, then we really have to dive in to like, what was it that got us there in the first place? Not that what happened to us was our fault at all, but how did we move through those situations where, like for me, I continued to let this happen and happen and happen because I was never enough before then, before this ever happened. Yeah. So it was normal for me to feel like I had to meet this next bar and the next bar and the next bar. Right. So that didn't feel unusual. Right. And so it was normal. I just walked into a thing that felt like the rest of my life had always felt. Yes. But I didn't realize that it didn't need to feel like that anymore. Right. And that person actually intended to harm me, which is very different than previous relationships and previous things. None of those people intended to hurt me, but this person intended to hurt me. Right. And so then I had to actually deal with all of it.
Covert narcissism is absolutely real.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there are predators out there, people out there who don't even acknowledge. They recognize that people are treating them, reacting in a negative way towards them. They don't recognize the action that provoked the reaction.
Right.
And when you are someone who is aware of your emotions, and I'm not going to say that I'm emotionally mature because I'm growing for sure, but when you are an empath or you open yourself up to someone else's wounds and you see their wounds and you love them, despite their wounds, that is a dangerous place to be because someone else's motives, and they may not even know their motives. They're not even capable of acknowledging or being accountable for those motives, oftentimes because they certainly have not done any work.
Right. Correct.
And those people are roaming the earth, and it kind of sounds like I'm talking about a monster roaming the earth, but emotionally unavailable people are very dangerous.
Yes.
And oftentimes we don't recognize that because I thought for sure, I can surely love this out of you.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And other people don't see it because they present as so fun and so intriguing and charismatic. And I just remember always describing this person as somebody that people wanted to be like him or be with him.
Okay.
They wanted to be him. Like a lot of times I feel like he was just so, he was like inspirational and just very fun. He was funny, told good stories. but he was a liar. And I could start telling that he was a liar, but other people didn't know that because
Yeah.
they only saw what they saw.
Oh.
They saw the projected image.
Yeah.
And it also, when it started to fall apart, that's when I was like, oh, what has happened? This is going in the absolute wrong direction.
Yeah.
And then the lies just became more and more obvious. And I
Right.
started finding out more things that had
Yeah.
been years in the making
Mm-hmm.
of these lies. And
Yeah.
so it is really unreal because I did that same thought of like, I could love this out of you. I can, this thing that you've just shared with me, I can make it better.
Oh, my house is spotless.
Mm-hmm.
My cooking is on point.
Yep.
My children are well versed and well, they do well. They accomplish things. I took pride in my abilities.
Yep.
And it just was never going to be enough.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And mine was more of a project. Mine was more of, I met someone who was depleted and a little broken and abandoned with a mother wound.
Yeah.
That's my type. And I took that project on and I saw the potential there and was like, ooh, I can build something here.
Yeah. That potential.
Woo!
That'll get you.
Potential and hope will get you stuck in a place of loyalty, will have you there longer than you should be.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly where it was for me, is I saw this project and I thought, ooh, I can make something of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it just went down in flames because I could never you can't convince someone of their potential if they don't see it.
Right.
I see it in people all the time, and I'm like, oh man, you got great potential. Tap into that. And so for me, it was a 20+ year project. I built a brand. I built a brand that I vouched for, that I lived, that I backed up, that I stood by. And I come from a place of, I was raised on the block. I'm a girl from the block, and I was raised that loyalty means everything.
Right. And
that's where I was. I gave this loyalty, and I when my partners fall, I lift them back up. No, you get back up there. You need to be this person. That's where your potential is, and I would lift you higher. And that's what I did for over 20 years. But I knew that wasn't going to be something that was going to be sustainable solo. I knew that I was the special. It wasn't that someone else was the special. It's that I was what made it special. And that took me a long time it feels weird to even say it out loud. But it took me a long time to get to that place when I realized I'm the special that made it special. Mm-hmm. But what you create isn't, in a sense, a monster that you've created, because they believe that they can sustain on their own what you built, and what you kept them between the buoys, and you helped hide all the bodies and all of the tranzas and all of the indiscretions and all of the things you hid. And you said, no, you need to be this person. This is the person that's respected in the community. This is the person. Right. I have lied to everyone to believe that you are. You must be this person. Our community needs you to be this person. Our community of family and friends and neighbors, we all believe you're this person. You have to be this person, and you have the potential to be that person. But when you take the training wheels off and you finally see them riding on their own, you realize, oh no, you can't sustain that.
Right.
I knew it all along, but I convinced myself that if I just gave more of myself and sacrificed more, that they would finally be able to fly or ride on their own.
Yeah.
And it just never happened.
I think there's this idea, like, once we've invested so much, that we just, like, we have to keep doing that. Mm-hmm. Like, we've put out kind of this image of whatever it is we wanted this life to look like, and social media doesn't help us with that, because
I didn't have social media for a long time, so it wasn't that for me, but it was absolutely the community.
Yeah. And wanting everybody, not wanting to have to go back and say, I was wrong.
Oh yeah.
I shouldn't have done this. I
Yeah.
should have gone a different direction. I wish that I would have made a different decision. Like, that's a hard thing. I think that's part of what did ultimately lead me into healing more in private, is that I didn't want to answer people's questions.
Right.
And because my entire community, I had been so cut off from everyone in my community before then.
Yes.
That the
Isolated.
only people I had were the people that they also knew.
Yeah.
And so I just decided I'm going to hide because I know the truth. It doesn't really matter what anybody else believes about this because I know what the truth is, and the truth will always come out. It will always come out.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately kind of led me to this idea that, like, karma is real. I believe that karma is real. Karma exists in some shape or form in every religion. So, you know, even in Christianity, you reap what you sow. You know, karma is this thing, like whatever you put out there, you're going to get that back.
Right.
And it is not up to me to decide what that looks like for him.
Oh, yeah.
I may never see it.
Right.
And it's ultimately none of my business.
You know,
but I can be like confident that it is going to happen. And so I just kind of put that out there and say, I'm not wishing bad on anybody, but I do wish that karma would just do its job.
Okay.
And that's kind of, then I can release that into the love and light. And I'm not wishing bad. I'm just asking karma to do its job. And then that just helps me feel a little bit more settled, because it's not my responsibility to get revenge, to have vengeance, to do, you know, tell anybody what happened, try to manage perceptions, tell a story, whatever. I just let it be what it is.
You're absolutely right. And I have been doing a lot of thought, had a lot of thought about karma. And I just don't have that kind of negative wish fulfillment for people.
Right.
I unfortunately, lonely knows lonely. And when you grow up an abandoned child, or you grow up with a lot of childhood trauma, you have a vision that's different. You have a set of glasses that are different for people.
For sure.
So yes, I see that bad behavior. Yes, it is not something you should be doing, but I know why you've done it. And that vision in this situation and many others have put me in a place that I compromise myself in. And I can see your wounds. I know why they're there. And it makes me more understanding of why you're behaving this way. And it's almost a pass.
Yeah. That kind of, it's compassion.
Which
is wonderful. It is so good to have compassion for people.
Yeah.
And at the same time, having boundaries around what is welcome in our, like you said earlier, you're protecting, you know, the energy that is around you, and even the things that you are taking in, as far as what you're watching, what you're seeing, what you're listening to, all of those things, those are boundaries too. So it is just being aware that you can have compassion for someone and say, I care about you and I see that, but I need you to do that over there.
I've never ever had to see someone's, or maybe, I don't know, been privy to physically watching someone's karma. Unfortunately, in this situation, the universe has put me in a front row seat. And I've been watching it for about 10 months. And every time I try to turn away or you know, use all of these different tools of no contact and, you know, putting up all of these barriers around me, the universe brings me right back to a place that I am forced to watch this karma. The health is depleted. The finances on that side has depleted. The character and integrity has completely depleted. There have been so many losses that I have been forced to watch. And I can only say that it must be the universe teaching me about adversity, or it's trying to teach me, I'm trying to focus on the lesson, because God knows I keep trying to turn away.
Right.
I don't want to watch the demise of someone else, even someone who has betrayed me. I don't want to watch it, but I'm forced to, and I've never had that experience in my life before. I of course have been in a place where, you know, this relationship ended and they're going to get their karma someday, but you never really see it. Or maybe you see small parts of like, oh, they stubbed their toe or they crashed their car or whatever. And you're like, ha, karma, right? But I've never had to watch someone's intense demise That's part of what keeps me in this place of being, not stuck, but I just can't bridge the gap. Yeah. Is that I'm forced to watch this person's complete demise. And not only that, I have then, in these last months reached out to have conversation of like, hey, you're fucking up. Can't you see A, B, C, and D? Listen, I'm telling you as a friend, like I am getting to the other side of this now, having the I've had several conversations saying, listen, can't you see A, B, C, and D? Can't you see what are you doing? Turn around.
Yeah.
Here's the life raft. Get in it. Stop doing this. And then watching the audacity and the arrogance and entitlement of this person saying, no, I'm fine burning in the fire over here. I like the fire. It feels good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. You're really fucking up here. What are you doing? Stop doing this. And finally, I mean, it was one of my best friends that said, you have to let the fire burn. Mm-hmm. You have to let the chips fall where they may. You cannot save this person anymore, Kim. And that was, it was physically painful to rip myself away from someone that I had proclaimed my lifelong loyalty to. Yeah. It literally was physically painful. And even though I had longtime friends of ours and family members and their family members and friends reach out to me and say, listen, we have seen this cycle several times and you have to save yourself because you have children, not just for yourself, Kim. Save yourself. Stop doing this. But you have kids. This is a cycle we have seen many times and you have to let this go. This is not good for you. I still held on and I still had, conversation of like, listen, stop it. You have to stop that. You have to do a 360 here. You are losing everything and you have to stop this. It just did absolutely no good. So now I'm at a place where I'm recognizing tone. I set a tone in my relationships, set a tone with beginning this relationship with you. I set a tone in my relationship with my sister, with my children, with my dog, with Robert. We have a tone in our relationship. It's open, it's honest, it's vulnerable. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's funny. We have a tone in our relationship, and you have that in every relationship that you have. So I'm more about now, what type of tone do I want projected my way? Yep. What type of tone do I project? Do someone project at me and if it's negative, why? What part am I playing in this? And how do we change this tone? But sometimes tone takes sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And tone takes accountability of yourself, of wow, what kind of tone am I setting here that has provoked this type of tone being projected back to me? Yeah. And that's a tough place for you to be as a single person, but also for the other person to get to, because you would like for them to have accountability and like for them to set a positive tone. But, that's their journey to get there might just be something they're not capable of.
Yeah. Well, as you were sharing that, I just kept thinking you were describing a person who has no interest in doing any of the work.
Absolutely not.
And you are a person who is very interested in doing the work. And the more work that you do, the more you will see and be able to notice when someone is just absolutely not interested. Yeah. And I remember one of the this was such a liberating thing someone said to me years ago, was you can't care more about someone than they care about themselves. So when you're trying to help someone, you can want them to do these things all you want. You can tell them over and over and over, but if they don't care, they are unwilling, then at some point you have to just let them go. And I imagine you said the life preserver, and so I had this picture and it's just like, okay, well, you have the life preserver and you get to decide if you come in or you stay out there.
That's right.
And I have to let you make that decision.
I don't like that you're drowning in the middle of this lake.
Right.
Even though you're the person that, has caused this, you shouldn't drown anymore.
Yep.
But if you're not going to get into that life raft, there's really nothing that I can do about that.
Exactly.
Accountability. And I mean, I think I tried to explain this probably 10 different ways in the last year. Accountability is not a word. It's an action.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you need radical accountability, but you know, you can't demand that.
No, I think the only way it really works in a relationship is when both people agree that like we're in this, and if I'm doing wrong to you based on the expectations that we have set, whether those are, you know, outright said or implied, there is space for accountability to happen. And if it can't, then there's no real relationship there.
There's no relationship there.
And I think that's like the hardest thing is we want that to just exist because that's part of a healthy relationship. And I know for me, I couldn't hold this person accountable. Anytime I tried to, it was always my fault. It was always, I always did something. It was always something that I did that caused something to happen, whatever. And once I finally realized that I'm actually not the one doing any of this.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing it up because I need this person to be held accountable so that I stop feeling crazy.
Oh.
Then I was able to get out of it. And actually what came from that, and you kind of, I think tone is a really good word for it. I love that description of it. But knowing what is the tone that I want to set in these relationships, and the way that I started doing that was actually through the use of understanding what my values were. And it wasn't that I didn't have an idea of values. Like I grew up with, you know, I grew up in the Catholic Church and, you know, whatever. And so there were like beliefs, we shouldn't, you know, lie to people. We should respect our parents. We should, you know, these very like common kind of things, but understanding that that belief is different than like the things I value. And the things that I value are, you know, honesty.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And especially after what happened, because there was so much misleading information and withheld information and outright lies. Honesty is going to be a big one. Yeah. So we're going to do that. Accountability. And they've changed over time just because they've been allowed to change over time. Yeah. So now one of them is restoration. My home is a place of restoration. Yeah. But by knowing my values, and so this is something I do work with all my clients, this is kind of where we start because that's how we know what to build. Yeah. If we know what we absolutely have to have at the foundation, like accountability, then we can build something solid. And that's what helps us set the tone.
That's right. I am enjoying this journey. It's painful sometimes. It's vulnerable. Even talking about certain things are, you know, like talking about the fact that my dad was a drug dealer. I grew up in, you know, in that kind of environment. That is something that, you know, was a little bit uncomfortable to say, but that's my genuine story. This is my genuine story. And if I'm going to be here asking for relationships that are honest, that are genuine, that are vulnerable, I can't expect to receive that if I am not willing to be that.
Yeah. And I love that.
So
I absolutely love that.
It's just a place where if I want to get back into my feminine energy, I have to put down this masculine energy. I have to. But I was required to be that, you know, 20 plus years ago, I was required to step into that masculine energy. And now I miss it. I miss my feminine. I miss that feminine energy. And if I don't let out all of these traumas and I don't say, yes, I was absolutely mentally abused for over 20 years. Yep. Absolutely. As were my kids. Yep. And I allowed it. If I don't stand up and say, you know what? No, that's not okay. Yeah. It's not okay. And I'm not doing that. And I'm not going to suppress this so someone else is comfortable. Right. If you don't want someone to talk about the negative things that you've done, maybe you shouldn't do those.
Exactly.
Change the tone.
Yep.
Maybe change the tone. You know, I've had to make big changes in my life because my choices don't just impact myself. My choices also impact my kids. Yeah. And they impact my family, my mother, my sisters, my friends, my close, tight-knit circle are also affected by the choices in my life. Yeah. And I recognize what role I play in my company, in my friendships, in my community, and those are important. Those are important, and they require sacrifice. Yeah. You know, my son has told me several times, you know, he's very protective of me, And he will, when we are out in public, he will say, "Who's that man talking to you? Who is that? Do you know him?" And I'll say, "Hey, look, I'm super funny and cute. So why wouldn't he want to talk to me?"
Yeah.
and he will, he's very protective of that. And he'll say to me, "Mom, I don't want you to ever get married." Or, kids will give you their cues. Yep. On my arm, I have a tattoo that says ricominciare, and it is in Italian, and it means begin again. Yep. I was at the point where I was ending my past relationship, crying in my bed. My daughter came in and I saw her come in, and I said, "Mija," I had posted something empowering and, value yourself on social media. Yeah. And I had tagged her in it, and she came in, and I said, "Mija, did you see my post?" And she said, "Yeah, I saw it." And I said, "What's the matter? You didn't like it?" And she looked at me very sassy, and she said, "I will if you will." And I broke down.
The honesty.
Cried, laid in bed. She laid in bed with me, and she wrote this on my arm. And I went to the tattoo artist and had it tattooed on my arm in her handwriting. So her handwriting is here forever on my arm to remind me you can begin again.
Absolutely.
And
there's actually the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. There's 2 of them. The second one, there's a character that says, "How many times can we begin again?" And she says, "As many times as we want, as long as there's time." And I love that, because I've had people say, "Tell me about yourself." And I'm like, which one? What era are we talking about? Are we talking about, my early adult years? Are we talking about these last 6 years? Yeah. And it just really depends on which one you want to know about, because we can begin again. And I think that is scary. I think that's really scary. I think that is partly what kept me in my situation for so long, was not wanting to begin again, being scared of what might happen.
Yeah.
Because I'd already done it once. I'd already been married and divorced. So now here I am needing to begin again. And didn't I just do this?
This is just my throat chakra telling me,
yes,
stop holding it in. Because I told myself, okay, listen, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to get super emotional about this. But talking about my daughter and the impact that I have on her, having her remind me, she'll value herself if I value myself, grabbed me by the throat just now to remind me of that.
Yep.
And every decision that I make, I consider my children in. Yeah. Even when I have this biker gang, which is like what I call my son and his friends, in the backyard, I will not put on a bikini. If I swim at all, it will be a modest suit. Because my choices impact these little eyes that are looking at me, whether it's my son or, the 8 boys that are in my yard,
right,
swimming.
Right.
I consider them in every decision that I make.
Yeah.
And those are choices that you have to consider when you have children. My children will not see me be unloved again. My son will not learn how to neglect, how to ignore, how to manipulate, or how to abuse his wife. No. You're welcome, by the way. He will not.
And that is the tone we all want, right? And I think when we recognize that that's not the tone that we're setting,
no,
then we have to do something different.
That's right.
And I want to go back to, you said something, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, about how I've been responsible for, I left this very abusive relationship, and it wasn't abusive just to me. It was abusive to I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
The older 2 were there. in this. So we all suffered our own abuse in this in different ways.
Yeah.
And it more and more is coming out now. And I think that's kind of the interesting thing of getting through survival into a period of thriving, into a place of safety, allows room for the real stuff to start coming out.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's where we are right now.
I just wanted to say, ouch. That's got to be painful.
And it is.
Yeah.
It really is. And you've used this term a couple times, and it is so necessary, this radical accountability.
Yes.
And it is hard, and it is painful.
Yeah.
And I do not enjoy it.
Mm-mm.
But I made decisions that did not involve considering my children, for sure. Because I was a traumatized person. We talked a little bit about childhood trauma. I was a traumatized person trying to get my needs met, and I made some terrible decisions.
As we all do.
Yep. And now I can look back and I see them all plain as day. But when I was looking forward, I couldn't see them that way. And so I also have to have radical compassion for myself. So there's both, and they both can exist. And when I'm talking to my kids about this, who are old enough to have these conversations and being able to say, you are absolutely right.
Yeah.
I did things that resulted in your harm.
I accepted that behavior. I accepted that neglect.
Behavior.
And and that's absolutely, my daughter and I talk a lot about that.
Yep.
She's been there for, she's 21 now. So she's been there for the entirety. And why did you accept this? And now that she's a psychology major, and last year, or maybe 5 months ago, she was studying addiction. She had to attend several AA, NA meetings, and she was fully immersed in these addiction classes. And in one of them, she asked me to go with her, and that was hard.
Yeah.
To go, and then allow her to go by herself was really difficult because, she has an addict in her life. And I went to one of them, and I've been in Al-Anon for years now. I went to an AA meeting and was in the back listening. And someone stood up to speak, someone extremely familiar to me. And my immediate response was leave, run, get out of here.
Yeah.
But I stood back in the back and I listened to them speak. And I realized almost immediately that the narrative that was being played out in their mind was absolutely the farthest thing from the truth. And I thought to myself, there's no healing here.
Yeah.
There's no healing here because the narrative is false. The smear campaign had been going on for months and months and even years. I mean, years with family and friends and people in our community and company even. Yeah. But, and I was kind of used to, without knowing it was a smear campaign, I was used to combating that. I was used to fighting that. Like, oh no, I show up as the same person all the time. But it was, I recognized it early on. I just didn't know what it was called. Yeah. I didn't know terminology like I know now. I didn't know smear campaign, flying monkeys, reactive abuse. I didn't know all of that terminology, the discard phase and all the phase of the cycles of love bombing and gaslighting. I didn't know those things. And when all of that came in all of the studies with, my daughter and being, TikTok trained, I didn't know any of this. And I was suffering in silence. I was healing in silence. I was licking my wounds, trying to live in my purpose, walk in my purpose of leading women and being a leader and being an alpha female and doing all these strong things. I realized, oh my goodness, I am not being authentic here. I'm not being vulnerable. I'm not being authentic. I'm not, and I initially, when I started this podcast, had decided I'm not going to talk about this topic and this topic and this topic, and I'm only going to stay in this lane. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm not even being genuine here. my dad was a drug dealer. I grew up very, very poor on the block. That's part of my story. That's part of what built me. That is still ingrained in me. And even as my sister sits here and listens to this podcast, I'm sure she's thinking to herself, my God, that's something we've had to hold in for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But it's part of who I am, and it's part of what built me. It makes me appreciate so much in my life now. And there are things, in my life that I have suppressed and has turned into, I'm not a depressed person. I'm not depressive, but I am a anxious person. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes when I get to know someone, I can overshare a little bit because I want you to know me. Right. I want to have that connection with people. I have an anxious attachment style. Mm-hmm. And I need a lot of protection in relationships. Yeah. So what ends up happening is in my relationships, I ask for a lot of protection and physical protection and emotional protection from things that could possibly harm me in any way. And usually the relationships that I choose are with men that are not emotionally available or they don't know how to protect. So I think it's important for men to learn early on in their life, but once they get married or have relationships that are important in their life, that they are the protector of all, not just from the banditos. You're the protector. You're the emotional protector of your daughter. Yep. You're the emotional protector of your son, of your partner. Yep. And if something harms them, it's your job to protect them from that. Yeah. That means if your homie is talking trash about your wife's cooking, oh no. Mm-mm. Even if it's terrible cooking, you took a vow and it's your job to defend that cooking. Mm-hmm. If you're eating beans and weenies, well, you should have thought about that a little earlier on. And you should have, made a different decision. But now that you're eating beans and weenies, you better stand on those beans and weenies. Yeah. That's your job. Yep. And we oftentimes don't teach our sons emotional availability. My son, I'm raising a warrior. I'm absolutely raising a warrior, and I'm raising someone's husband. I will be there the day that my son becomes a father. And I take great pride in his integrity and his strong character and his work ethic and his knowledge of his integrity. Yeah. I ask him, well, what kind of man do you want to be? Mm-hmm. Make a choice based on that. Yeah. And I don't teach him what to think. I just teach him how to think because he needs to make his own decision about what kind of man he wants to be.
It's interesting. I'm talking to my oldest son right now. He's about to be 21 and terrifying. Mm-hmm. And we've been doing this exercise where, and I did this a couple years ago. It's kind of good to do every few years, I guess, reevaluate. But I said, sit down and think about everyone is at your funeral. You've passed and everyone is at your funeral. Ooh. And they are sitting around talking about you. Okay. What do you want them to say? Holy smokes. Write that down. Mm-hmm. Because if that's who you want to be, then you better figure out how to be that. So that when it actually comes to pass, that is what they're saying. That's right. So it's like reverse engineering your life. Yeah. Because I think that by doing this podcast, by having these conversations, it is all the same thing. It is the intentionality. It really is. Creating what you want to exist. Mm-hmm. And we really do have a lot of say and control over that. It seems very simple. I just literally had almost this exact conversation with someone that had a previous marriage, 2 daughters, completely abandoned that relationship and that marriage and was really inconsistent in his children's lives. Mm. One of them is extremely successful. The other one has successes in different areas. Mm-hmm. Both of them have emotional damage. Yeah. And I was trying to hold him to some level of accountability because he was having a conversation with me about blame and about how, well, this person did this to me and my mother did that and this is what happened. And I said, okay,
let's just role play for a second here. Or let's just talk out the scenario. If you're going to play the if game, play it all the way out. So let's just start here. What if you had made a different choice? What if you had chosen to maybe not remarry immediately or very well soon after? Mm-hmm. What if you had decided that you were going to dedicate your life to your daughters until they were ready for you to remarry? What if instead of choosing to self-soothe, you chose to soothe your children through the divorce, through the mother's remarriage, through the stepfather's alcoholism, through all of that? What if you had made a different choice? What type of humans, what type of adults would your daughters be now?
What a great question.
And it was, it was amazing. I mean, the response was almost complete silence. And, just holding your relationships and friendships accountable. Well, if you're going to tell me this story and you want my input, vent out,
Sure.
Vent it out. I'm here for it. I'll listen to you all day. But if you're asking what my opinion is, I'm asking you then, I'm posing the question to you that what if you had made a different decision? How would that have impacted your daughters? Yeah. And, talking about radical accountability, sometimes you just have to, it is so simple. It seems so simple to me, the accountability part. And, why is it so difficult to say, you know what? I've really fucked up. I have really made a bad choice. I've made a bad choice. I have hurt you. And you know what? I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry for that. Yeah. And I just want to know what I can do. What do I have to do to change your perception of me? Because that's important. Yep. But, I can't explain to my kids my daughter's, older and she's studying this. So we can have more conversation. But how do you explain that this is just how they are?
Yeah.
And how do I say to my friends or whoever I'm having a conversation with, that's just how they are, without saying, okay, but didn't you lie?
Yeah.
That kind of sucked, right? Maybe that affected things. Or didn't you cheat? Well, but what was your responsibility in this?
Yeah.
And I'm posing that question to myself that, what was my responsibility, my role? What did I do? Well, what I did was I believed in someone's potential far too long. And I held on to that potential. I held on to that hope. And I lapped up those breadcrumbs and held on to them with all my might. And hope kept me stuck in a place I should have left a long time ago. And, so that's my responsibility.
Yeah.
I led the charge. No, be this person. No, start this business. No, do this. Show up here. Do this. Show up there. Present as this person. Yep. And you will have success. And they did. But then later, I am a bully. I am a bossy person. It's my fault. I'm to blame. Had I only just let you be who you were, which was probably, looking at it, the better idea. Was it the successful route? No. And I say, you know what? You're welcome. You're welcome for my bossiness. Yeah. You're welcome because you're successful now. You're welcome. But at the same time, I presented a false persona in this person. And, I come across a simple TikTok that, we're not the same. I lied to people so they would like you. You lied to people so they would not like me, so they would hate me. Ooh. But it's was absolutely true. I've built something that was not real. And now I suffer the consequences of that. Yeah. In, a lot of things. A lot of, people look at me like, well, wait a minute. You're the one that told us that this was great. You're the one that said this person has great potential. And now you're saying that this person was not nice.
Right.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, but we get to begin again. And we get to say, not like that. Not ever again.
Right.
And have set a new tone and create spaces like this. I was thinking a lot about the idea of these brave spaces and what that is. And it is vulnerability, right? We have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
We have to be curious and open.
Right.
And then we have to repair, because it's going to go wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I think about that in my family. My daughter and I got in an argument today. It's not all, and it wasn't even over anything that I would consider serious, but she's a teenager. And so, this happens.
Yeah.
But being able to then consider what happened, maybe I used the wrong tone of voice. Maybe I addressed this particular topic at the wrong moment. We were kind of in a hurry. And so I brought this up and it kind of blew up.
Yeah.
And being able to go back and say, I'm sorry that I wasn't sensitive to the timing of this conversation, that's repair. Now, this is kind of a silly example.
Yeah.
But when we can be vulnerable, share our feelings. I mean, my youngest is 8. And I tell him, I'm having an anxious day. I'm having a really hard time today.
Okay.
And I will tell him that.
Uh-huh.
And I don't tell him that so that he feels responsible, because my mom didn't do that on purpose. My brother died when I was little, when I was 4.
Oh,
and I had a 2-year-old sister. My mom could not be a parent.
Yeah.
In the months after that.
I don't know
right?
How
would
could
you
she
do
even
that?
breathe?
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my life, there was this parenting her in a way that was like comforting her. And so I vowed at a very young age that my children would never have to take care of me.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have learned in these last few years is that my kids need to know. They need to see me move through these things.
Yeah.
So that they can see that there is a way through hard stuff. So that they can see that it's okay to have a bad day, an anxious day, a day where one of those everything thing days where it's like one thing goes wrong and pretty soon everything is wrong. And it's just really, so now I will tell my 8-year-old, like, I'm having a really hard day.
Yeah.
And he'll say, that must be really hard. That is empathy. My 8-year-old is learning how to say, that must be really hard, Mom. And he doesn't say, sometimes he'll say, it's going to be all right because I believe in you. That's also super sweet. And he hears his dad say that to me. So he's like getting that example of his dad is saying, I believe in you. I know it's a hard day. You can do this. But those are the examples that we're setting for him now. This is so different than 8 years ago, when my kids did not see me cry.
Yeah.
They did not see me. They just saw me white knuckle it.
Right.
And so now we're creating this brave space of vulnerability, of openness, of curiosity,
within
and
your
then
family.
repair within the family.
Right.
And that is what I hope to bring outward from us, from here. It's what you're doing. It's third Sunday of every month, what I'm trying to do with this, women's meetup that happens.
Yeah.
To create these spaces where people know they have a place to go, where it is safe for them to share parts of their life. Maybe not all of it yet.
Yeah.
It takes time to feel comfortable and be vulnerable and have the authenticity to share our stories in this way that is the most healing way, I think. I think we're finding that. But that's what we need, brave spaces, safe spaces, so that we can actually heal. Because when we heal, when families heal, then communities start to heal.
Yeah. And some of us don't have family that are readily available. Right. I grew up in a huge family. My mom had 8 siblings. My dad had 5 brothers. There was 5 in that family. We grew up in a huge family. And when someone had a baby, and we're Hispanic, so in the Latino community, when a woman has a baby, I mean, we all flock to feed and to comfort and to, help that process along, not just for the woman, but also for the man. We bring food and we coddle and we take care of, and we almost chant, really. I mean, it's like a community. We gather around our women when we have children, and the woman normally doesn't leave the home for 30 days. We will stay in the house for 30 days. We don't leave. We don't go outside. And, we have all these little Hispanic rules of things, but we are a community of women that gather around if you're sick, if you're have a baby, if you are going through something, we all rush in. And when you live in a community that you don't have family in, that is really difficult. When I grew up in that my whole life. So now if I am the one who will, when you have a baby, I'll bring you food. When you're the one that is going through something, I'm usually the first one that's there. Like, well, why? And looking around, like, where are your people?
Else? Yeah.
Where are your people at?
Yep.
But when I am going through something, I will have zero expectations of anyone coming for me. And women need women.
Yes, we do.
We just do. It's not like it's some, what's coming up for me right now is that I had made some comments about women empowerment and female empowerment to so-and-so. And the reply was, "You go, woman," ridiculing for that. But women need women.
Yep.
Women, if I don't show my daughter what female empowerment is, then who is going to show her that?
That's right.
Women need women. We need women to show us how to heal. We need women to show us how to breastfeed.
Yep.
We need, because a man can't show us that. Nope. We need women to show us how you deal with, my mother dealt with a lot of, my father was absent a lot because he was off working. Mm-hmm. And it was us to hold the house down. It was for us to, keep things going in the household. My cat wants to come in the house right now. And of course I cater to his every whim because he's a big, orange, luscious cat. Goth is here. Doo, doo, doo. He likes a big entry. He likes the horns to go. He likes, look at him. Look how gorgeous he is. For goodness sake, I just want to kiss him on the kitty lips right now. So I don't want him to want for anything. Endure going without a snack for a second longer than he needs to. But, the women in our family, we would all rally together, and take care of the house, take care of my mother, take care of each other, and heal through things. And, my dad hadn't been home for a month. So my mother was pregnant with my youngest sister. And, we were going through Lamaze. I went to Lamaze classes with my mother because my dad wasn't here. Yeah. I remember Christmas time. Now we were living, dollar to dollar. When my dad came home from work, he would bring a mountain of money, cash in those days, in the 80s. Yeah. You could fly with a lot of cash. Mm-hmm. So my dad would go work, and I remember he would not fly in until the last minute. Christmas Eve, we were all like, there was literally like a notice at the end of the gate that our electricity would be shut off. We were really living like, oh my gosh, on pins and needles, is it going to happen? And when he came into town, we were all joyous, but it would happen usually for Christmas. It would happen Christmas Eve. And then my mother would go out to all of the sales and all of the stores. And, back then we had Toys R Us open till 1 a.m. Oh yeah. At Christmas time, those were the holiday hours. And she would be out till 1 a.m. making it all happen. And then my sisters and I would be there, mainly me, because this one over here would be sleeping, but, wrapping presents until an hour before they woke up. Yeah. But she had a gift for everyone. Robert, you could show up at her house. She'd have a gift for you. She has something for Mijo, don't leave just yet. I have something for you. It didn't matter if you knew her or you didn't. If you showed up at the house, she had something for you. You're not leaving hungry or without. Yep. And so that's what my training was. And I remember when Sophie was young, I put her through her training. Hey, did you ask your father if you could be excused? Wait a minute. Did you pick up your dad's plate? I put her through these training that I went through, and then was teaching her not to value herself, but to value something else. Yep. And that's how I was raised. So everything was a lot different in my world. I remember when I first moved here from San Diego, which is where I'm from. I moved here from San Diego, and I had to get an oil change Never changed my oil in my life, ever. Because someone would come to the house and take your car, and they would change the oil. They would fill it with gas, and then my dad would usually slip $100 in, in the cigar or the cigarette holder with an ashtray, and that's how your oil was changed. So when I got here, I had to get an oil change. My light had come on. I was panicking, like I don't know what the hell to do. And I didn't know how to get around the town because this was a not familiar place for me. I found the Jiffy Lube. And I drove my car down to the Jiffy Lube, got an oil change, and came back so accomplished. And
amazing.
At the end of the day, when my partner came home, I said, "You will not believe what I found today. You can go get an oil change at the Jiffy Lube, and they will let you sit in the car. Mm-hmm. You can watch novellas sitting in the car, and they'll change your oil for you." I was like, I own oil. This is the oil I paid for. I bought this oil. Jiffy Lube is a magic place. But it was a funny, weird thing I had never experienced before. I never experienced, when I bought my first set of tires, I needed tires for a car. I had to buy tires. I went down to the Walmart, bought the tires, because I didn't know where you go get tires.
Sure, yeah.
Went to the Walmart, bought the tires, and I came home like, I own tires. I own 4 tires. These are my tires. No one can take these tires. I paid for them. I have a receipt for the tires.
You did that.
I did it. It was,
yes.
but it was a funny thing to the funny story to tell, because other people are like, what do you mean you own tires? That's crazy. But for me, it was a big thing because I grew up in a different way.
Yeah.
That's part of my story. That's part of what built me. That's part of who I am. Going through all those times. I mean, even now I have muffins and I have cookies always on my counter, because in my world, growing up with my mother, if we were abundant, my mother had a Sara Lee pound cake, the frozen ones that you defrost. And if she had it by the toaster, I knew we were good. If the pound cake was gone, we didn't have any more pound cake, it was going down. Something was going down, or it was about to go down. That pound cake represented security in my life.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, my son's friends come over and they're like, "Man, are you sure we're allowed to eat this lemon cake? Can we eat the cookies? Are you sure? Those are brownies. Can I have one?" And Ray says, "Yeah, they're always here. Just go eat what you want." But they see the pound cake every day. They see the abundance every day. It doesn't matter if I have to sacrifice. If I'm going to go without something, they're going to have muffins or cookies or something, because for them that equals abundance. And for me, it's a little signal that I give them. Like, we have a fruit bowl billowing with fruit. You can have pound cake or you can have cookies whenever you want. They're there to have. It's not a special treat, and it's abundant all the time. So, it signifies success and security for me. Yeah, for them. Yeah, because of the way that I grew up.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's awesome to be able to make that connection, and then just bring that forward to your kids.
Yeah, yeah. But it's it's about their security, their stability, their safety. And knowing that no matter what, I'll figure it out. Yeah. No matter what, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. But in that, sometimes what I need and what I want and what I yearn for kind of takes a little bit of a back seat. My son's not ready for me to get married. It's okay. Yep. When he is, what will happen? He'll say, "You know what, Mom? I think it's time. It's time for you." He'll recognize it, because I'm raising an emotionally aware male. Yep. And it'll be time.
And the world needs more of them.
There was a time when I self-soothed. Yep. And I realized, well, I don't want this relationship. I just want something to soothe me. Yeah. And that wasn't fair. It wasn't fair for myself. It wasn't fair for the other person. And so, I acknowledged that and apologized and talked it through. And I had to have that conversation with my kids many times. Yep. That I went to self-soothe. And that's why I, made a choice that was selfish. Radical accountability led me back to, if my kids are not stable and they're uncomfortable in any way, well, we're going to just sit and we are going to make better decisions and different decisions until we all are.
Yeah.
This isn't my timing anymore because I'm raising someone's mother.
Yep.
I'm raising someone's wife, partner even.
Yep.
Regardless. I'm raising someone's partner. I'm raising someone's, these are my responsibilities.
Yeah.
It's no longer self-soothing for me. I'd love to have, other things in my life. Right now it's just not the time because I'm raising these children.
Yep.
I had a lot of love and passion and lifetime before I got pregnant with Sophie, and Sophie changed my absolute existence on this earth. Made me a mother, made me prioritize different things. Prior to Sophie, I experienced a lot of life and a lot of love and a lot of passion and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of wonderful and horrible things. But after Sophie, everything was determined by how she viewed. I determined how she viewed the world. Mm-hmm. My choices determined that. Yep. I'm very aware of that. Yeah. Unfortunately, other people are not as aware.
Yeah. Well, and that's why these conversations are so important, I think.
Yeah.
Because if we don't talk about it, then they stay unaware.
Yeah.
So by having these conversations, talking about it, telling the truth about it, talking about the idea of self-soothing, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking, I can't remember the last time I had a conversation like that, like just with a girlfriend talking about stuff.
Oh, I never do.
Right.
My sister.
Me and my sister too. And I think it's so awesome that we have people that we can talk about that with, but the conversation needs to get bigger. Mm-hmm. So I love that you've created a space so that can happen.
And it's not just for women, it's, right. I'm posing the question to, Robert. I was telling Robert, that I'm so excited about the podcast today. And he said, me too. And I said, you are? And he goes, yeah, because I always learn something. And I was like, wow, okay, so it's a male that's interested in a different perspective, maybe not specifically from a woman, but he's interested in a conversation and he's open to, what am I going to learn from this? I can't wait to see what I learn.
Curiosity.
Right, exactly. And so it's just really interesting to have, people around you that are interested in hearing that, specifically a male that's interested in like, what am I going to learn today?
Yeah.
And it's just really important. Like I posed the question, to someone, a male friend of mine recently, is it that, and he's single, is it that in a relationship that is mediocre at best? I said, okay, is it that you want to be a husband again, or is it that you just want a wife? Because those are very different. Very different.
It's important to know. What's the answer to that?
What is the answer to that?
Yeah.
And he just took a step back and said, well, never thought about it that way. Why are you not? Why are you not thinking about it that you're impacting somebody else's life, someone else's family, someone else's set of friends, someone else's job. So if you're there just to self-soothe, or you're there because she wants to give to you and you want to, now look, receiving feels great.
For sure.
It feels great to have someone care about you, someone cook for you, someone clean for you, someone do things for you, someone to be concerned about how your day is. That feels great. But is it that you are there that because you are healed, or that you are ready to contribute and you're wanting to contribute?
Yep.
Or are you there just to receive because it feels good in the moment?
Yep.
And if it is, hey, call it what it is. Call it exactly what it is. But don't sit here and promise someone that, or make comments to someone that leading them down a path of, this could be permanent. This could be forever. This could be what I've been looking for. If indeed you are just there living in the moment to self-soothe, call it what it is, So I'm trying to keep myself accountable. I'm trying to, pose questions to myself that are, what is my intention?
Yeah.
What is my motivation? But also keeping my pack of women that I have around me also aware and accountable.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that was terrible. And I'm here to listen if that's what you want to do. But maybe this happened, or did you consider that?
Yep.
Because what's your role? What is your role? You can't just sit here and say, he did this to me and they did that to me and this is their fault. But look within yourself, and that what was it that made you stay and accept that? Yep. That's where the work is.
Yeah, I pulled a card recently. A friend gave me this card, this little, inspirational cards, and it said, "You are choosing who you become." And I keep it in my purse now because that reminds me and keeps me accountable. Mm-hmm. Every choice I make, when I choose not to do something, that's a choice. Mm-hmm. I'm making choices about who I become. Mm-hmm. And so asking that question, what part of this was me? What did I do? What could I have done differently?
Is that what started you on this journey?
Yes. I distinctly remember the day just sitting there thinking, man, there's that phrase that's like, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything.
Yeah.
And it just was the most true statement in that moment. I can remember sitting at my dining room table and thinking, if I don't do stuff differently, it will just be the same again. Yeah. Because I've already been down this road a couple times. Uh-huh. The last one was the worst one. Yeah. But I just thought, it'll just happen again. So what am I going to do different to make sure that it cannot happen again? Mm-hmm. And I had to start believing different things about myself. I had to start believing different things for my life. I had to start setting boundaries, setting different tones in my life, and deciding what I absolutely will not tolerate. And standing on those things and following through. So it's one thing to say it, it is another thing to follow through on it.
Yeah, it is. I'm a follow througher. Yeah. I will follow through. I got you. I have, my loyalty is really strong, and that keeps me sometimes in places I shouldn't be. And that's where, so I need to be able to discern. I need to be able to make decisions that are like, you know what, this really isn't good for me. This is not serving my family or myself, or this is not, I don't have that. I don't have that break. Yeah, I don't have like that lever where I pull it and go, hey.
I think a lot of women don't. Oh, yeah. And especially like what you were talking about growing up and, even like giving your daughter the training and stuff like that at a young age. I think most of us have had that training in some way. Mm-hmm. If other people are more important than you, other people are more important than me. Yeah. My dad is the most important person here. And so therefore my opinions don't get to matter. What I have to say doesn't matter. Yeah. And I found myself doing that to my kids. And I realized no, if I want them to grow up to be people that know that their opinion matters, their thoughts matter, their thought process in this matters, whatever, I have to give them space to do that now. Mm-hmm. And then we have conversations about why I don't agree or whatever, but we do have conversation. Yeah. I don't just say it's because I said so. Because I don't want my daughter to be 34 years old sitting at her dining room table saying, oh, I just let this person walk all over my whole life because I didn't believe I deserved better. Yeah. My part is I took whatever I got.
I took whatever I got.
I don't want to do that again. And I don't want her to do that. And I don't want my sons to believe that that's all they have. They only have to give whatever they want. Mm-hmm. That's not a partnership. Mm-mm. So our life is very different now. And the husband that I have now is incredibly different than anyone I've ever been with because my standards were so high and I had gotten to a place where I was unwilling to budge.
Yeah. I tend to choose relationships that make me feel like home. And unfortunately, home was a little crazy. Yeah. So I tend to lean a little bit in the toxic circle. But, I don't want to, but I tend to lean sort of, I used to only date, oh gosh, two of the loves of my life, because I've had several. I've had a lot of passion in my life, but one of the greatest loves of my life was a drug dealer, man, and he used to be just as toxic as possible. He would grab me by the small of the back, pull me in close to him, and he would say, "You belong to me." And I'll tell you what, shivers went down my spine, and I would have jumped off a cliff for that one. And it was just one of the most passionate relationships I ever had in my life. but it was terribly toxic and controlling and really just terrible. It was a terrible relationship. I look back on it now. I mean, he would pick me up in his Porsche and drive me to Costa Mesa, just hair on fire, just we would go to Costa Mesa and he would sit in the Giorgio Armani restaurant, which was adjacent to the store, and he would have the lady, the customer service person, dress me in a lot of different outfits, and he would tell me, I want your shoes to match your hair. I remember he would say to me, and I don't know why, but I was so young and just full of this poison, I guess, that left me there, and I just loved it. I loved watching him sit there, all powerful, drinking his cappuccino and having someone dress me. It was just so like it was. I was just so full of toxic at the moment that it felt like home.
Yeah,
it felt fantastic. I just used to just be so full of it that I just couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
When he would tell me, you belong to, why can't I go with my girlfriend? Because you belong to me, in his accent. And I was like, oh, okay. So I tend to sometimes choose relationships that are like that. Yeah. And I always, or I take a role in my friendships that I love to show people new things. I mean, my best friend, Jill, who is deceased, oh my God, I used to love to take her to the Ritz-Carlton or buy her a full jewelry box full of jewelry for her birthday or spoil her like nobody's business. I just loved it. I loved that feeling. I could give it to her, and she never had that in her life. But I love, showing people things. I remember I had a sister-in-law, deaf, partially deaf, and she'd never been anywhere. She'd never gone anywhere. And she had a fulfilling life, very happily married, kids, wonderful nephews, just a wonderful life. But my sister-in-law was just that doormat that everyone just took advantage of. And I remember I wanted to go to Paris for the first time. I'd never been to Paris. Now I'm not a Francophile. I don't think I'm fancy enough for Paris, and I just didn't enjoy Paris. I still struggle to enjoy it. I think probably because of my anxious tendencies, and I can't slow down enough for Europe, because you need to slow down when you're there, and it's hard for me. But anyway, so I planned this trip to Paris, and I knew she couldn't really afford a lot of the trip, so I paid for the whole trip, and I took her there, and I had an expectation that she was going to have this reaction of superior, and this is so beautiful and wonderful. And when she opened her suitcase, I booked a room right next door to Chanel, the Chanel store, and this beautiful hotel. And she opened her suitcase when we got there, and I saw that she had packed her own food. She packed peanuts and snacks and nuts. And I was thinking, and I looked at her and I said, did you bring your own food? She goes, yeah, I don't like change. And I thought, I've just brought you to a place that you are going to be completely uncomfortable with and hate everything about. She ended up eating the snacks in her suitcase in Paris.
Oh my goodness.
And I was heartbroken almost the entire time, because I wanted to show her and give her something spectacular, but she couldn't veer off of the path of comfortable. And I thought, well, I've just given you now something that you didn't even want. I've given you total uncomfortable, out of your comfort zone, away from your husband and family. This is horrible for you. And I was just devastated by it. And it was hard for her because we were in this very noisy city.
Yeah.
And her hearing aids didn't work well. So she couldn't hear the tours, and it was miserable. She didn't like it at all. Yeah. So she bought her souvenirs, and then she got pickpocketed. So we rebought the souvenirs so she could take her stuff. She was more concerned with taking a scarf back to her sister and taking chocolates and things back to her kids and her husband, but she couldn't wait to get home. And I don't know. It just was what I knew. I wanted to overindulge her and give her something that I thought was going to be magnificent and life-changing. And it just, I chose something that I would have wanted someone to do for me, but it just didn't work out that way. I don't know. I just end up choosing relationships that feel like home. And my dad was emotionally unavailable, so of course I chose a partner that was emotionally unavailable. And then I choose men that are abundant, and then they shower me with things, but not, things that are really mattering.
I think that's pretty common. I think that's really common. And I think that's what we hope to change, right?
Yeah.
For our kids is that, I mean, I want my kids to find someone that feels like home, but in a way that's whole, in a way that they didn't, that's better.
Yeah.
That's better than home. Like they recognize it and it feels comfortable. Or now maybe creating this space so that home starts to look like something different.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not what it could have been. It's not what I grew up with. It's so much better.
Yeah.
And we can have that space and have these conversations and do this healing out loud and so that we aren't the only ones who benefit from that. And our kids aren't the only ones who benefit from that.
Right.
But others will also.
This is going to be I've decided, this is going to be a 5-week, journey with you. And also in that time frame, I hope to have conversations with people that are having on their healing journey, that are having those types of experience for them, and giving them an arena and a platform and a place to be able to express that, because your journey is helping me. Maybe there's one person that my journey will help, and maybe their journey will help someone else, and maybe their journey will help someone else, and maybe not. I don't know. But if I can allow for a space for someone to express their healing journey in this, then that's all I can really ask for. So thank you for joining me today in this. And I look forward to our next 5 weeks, and we'll have another conversation in 5 weeks.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
For now, though, Sundays at Oak and Iron.
Yep, it's the third Sunday of every month. So there'll be the third Sunday of October, and the date is escaping me right now, but it's always the third Sunday at 9:00. So we do a little bit of movement. We do Zumba and bar for an hour.
Who doesn't love Zumba?
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I've never done it before, but I'm having a blast.
I can't.
Every time I go.
I don't enjoy yoga because I'm too anxious, but Zumba, I can get down with some Zumba. Robert, karaoke and Zumba, are you in?
Karaoke and Zumba. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Robert's we do that.
Robert's in for karaoke because, I get down with some karaoke, and he's in for Zumba.
Nice.
Let's do it.
Okay. Karaoke and Zumba. I love it.
Yeah.
I might have to suggest that. But then we do a second hour that is like this last time we had a nutrition coach who talked about gut health and hormones and how they're related. And so every month it's something useful and beneficial and then we can share our lives together.
If I remember correctly, there was one about social media.
Yes.
I missed
we had one about Reiki.
Yeah, Reiki.
We talked about the importance of play.
Goodness.
That was also a really, really good one. Why play is important for adults.
I did theta healing once, and I barfed for 2 hours after.
Some of these healings are intense.
Smokes. It was intense. Yeah. So I'm glad you're doing something that is just really more community of someone belonging. I mean, the community at Oak and Iron is amazing.
Yes.
Lindsay has truly created a space there that is not just for, women empowerment, but it is welcome
holistic.
And those are my people because they're quirky, and some of them, some people that show up I don't really know what I'm doing most of the time. I just wing it, and I love that kind of community. That sort of, let's figure this out together.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun. We've been doing it since the beginning of the year, and it's just every month we're like, this is so cool. This is so cool that these women are showing up and spending some of their time with us, and we get something different and new out of it every time. So I love it. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Rebel Coaching.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to these next 5 weeks and see where our Healing Out Loud journey takes us.
Awesome. Thank you.